Here we have a 2018 Subaru Outback 3.6R. Brand new, this costs around 2.4 million, as this is the top of the line spec. The other option was a 2.5 liter flat 4 engine, which costs a few $100,000 less. This car also comes with the Eyesight. I'll show you that later on. So the Outback is a car, it is longer wheelbase wise than the Forester, but it is lower. So you can see that from top to bottom, the car is a bit lower. This car is more of like a jacked up wagon instead of an SUV. So I'll show you around this car and also give it a test drive later. But before that, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more videos. Before I show you the insides of the Outback, I just want to point out that this car is built in roof rails. Over here at the top, so you can just move it up, then towards here. The other side is up, then towards here. So it's a pretty neat trick. Okay, so this car has keyless entry, so just have the key in your pocket. Touch here, unlock. If you want to lock it, you just tap that button. So inside you'll see it has a nice leather interior. I'm not quite sure if this is real leather, but it's not exactly the best quality leather. Okay, anyway, up here, you got your headrest. This is movable, you can tilt it like this. And I like it in this position. Over at the side, you got your power seats with memory on the side. Later on, I'll show you that. And it even has lumbar support. I'm not too sure if the passenger side has lumbar support. I think only the driver side has that. So here you got your memory settings, 1 and 2. But it's worth noting that the side mirrors don't adjust with your memory settings. You got your window switches here, but only the driver side switch is fully automatic up and down. The rest you gotta hold down or hold up. Got your side mirror adjustments. This one folds your side mirror, lock and unlock, but unusual stuff. You also got a nice cubby over there. It's pretty big. One more thing is the Harman Kardon sound system. That one sounds pretty good. Step on inside. First, let's check if the door sounds good. For a Japanese car, I must say that's not bad at all. So to start this, put your foot on the brake pedal, then just press this. Dial has this nice animation that goes around like that. It's pretty cool. Okay, turn on the AC. So this has a dual zone climate control. You got this 8-inch touchscreen. It is quite responsive. It's not, I wouldn't say it's smartphone level. There's still a little bit of lag, but it's livable with. For apps, you got CarPlay and Android Auto. It's perfect for this size of screen. Over here, you got an auto dimming mirror. This is your Eyesight. So what Eyesight basically is a camera-based automatic cruise control. Yeah, like an adaptive cruise control that's camera-based. So instead of having like sonars in front usually, you actually have this camera over here. There's one there. There's another one on the other side. Then behind this, it's kind of hard to get a picture of that. Over there, there's one more over there. The pros and cons of this. Number one, I find it to be a bit more accurate. The cons are if it's in really bad visibility conditions, it tends to turn off by itself. One thing I forgot to mention about the Eyesight system, as you can see, my car has really dark tints on the side, but it's quite clear in the front. It's not because I want better visibility. Well, that's one, but the second point there is the dealership said that there's an opacity limit for this Eyesight system to work. So I guess that's one of the trade-offs. Here you got a sunglass holder. Got your dome lights, your sunroof switches. The sunroof is actually adequately sized. And then as you move down, more cubbies here. So this one opens up. Oh, there you go. So down there, you got a 12-volt socket. You got an aux port, and you got 2 USB. Okay. So for those 2 USB, those are the ones you're going to use to connect to CarPlay and Android Auto. Over here at the center, you got your regular shifter with manual mode. Once you're in manual mode, it shifts, it tends to hold the gears better. It holds it more, higher RPM. Over here, you got your electronic parking brake. This is your hill descent control. X mode, use that for off-roading. Then what's interesting over here is this thing called view. So actually in front of the car in the grill, you got a camera over there. So you press view, press it again. See, that's your front camera. Press it one more time. You actually got a camera under the side mirror. I'll show you that on the outside later on. So as you can see, this is live. So as I turn the steering wheel, you can see that the wheel is turning as well. It's a pretty neat trick. You can see the curves better. It's great for when you're off-roading. And you can press it again to have a split screen. Okay. One more thing, here in the middle, you got 2 cup holders. This is removable if you want more space, put larger items. You got another cubby here, you got a coin holder. This is removable. There's also another 12-volt socket in there. The glove box, it is pretty big. Okay, now let's move on to the dashboard. So the dashboard is covered in soft touch materials. Same thing with the door cards. Although there's still some cheaper plastic materials over here. Like for example, this one over here, that's cheap plastic. This is cheap plastic. This is, I don't know, it's supposed to look like brushed aluminum, but it feels like plastic, so it probably is plastic. Then the steering wheel. The steering wheel looks really nice. It looks quite modern. It's like a typical modern Subaru steering wheel. So you got a lot going on here. On the left, you have your radio settings, change, volume, all of that. On the right side, these are the switches for the adaptive cruise control. Then here you have like this S and I mode and S hashtag. No, S sharp. It's not a hashtag. So if you press these buttons, they change over there. There you go. So I is like an intelligent drive. This is basically your eco mode. S is kind of like your normal mode. Then the S sharp, that's your supposedly sportier driving mode. Okay, but for now, let's keep it in intelligent mode. As you can see, I have a TPMS warning, so I got to take this to the dealership sometime soon. But usually, without that, if that's working properly, you're actually going to see all four of your tire pressure. They show up in real time. So the way you adjust this trip computer in the middle, you got some buttons over here at the lower left of the steering wheel. You just switch like that, and they switch like that. And just in case you're wondering, I'm averaging around 5.4 kilometers per liter, which is respectable for this car's engine and given the traffic of the roads that it usually ply. Over here at the side, you got a lot of switches. This is your tailgate. This is for turning off your blind spot monitoring. You got a memory, so if you don't want your lift gate to go up that high, you can set it to a specific height and just press there. You can turn off your automatic collision prevention system, your lane departure warning, and of course your stability control. At a car spec like this, I don't know why there's even a blank button over here. Maybe in North American models they got some extra heating or a thing for winter over there. Okay, now I'll go ahead and show you the reverse camera first. Okay, so this car does not have reverse sensors. It does, however, have a reverse camera. So you put the car in reverse. And there, as you can see, the big screen really helps you out a lot. Although it's not the clearest, it's still quite good compared to most of its competitors, I must say. And it also swivels there, as you can see. Now let's go to the back and I'll show you the back. So the rear doors of the Outback, they're quite long. I mean, this is supposed to be a wagon after all that has just been jacked up, right? So you open it. As you can see, it opens nice and wide, so entry and exit is no problem at all. As you go in, you can see you have this, of course, your adjustable headrest up and down. You can even fold down the seat by pressing here. The other option is what I'll show you later, which is from the back. There's just a lever you're going to pull. And over here, it looks hidden, right? Because of the seat belt, but you can actually pull this and the seat reclines quite far back. That's actually a good degree of recline. I'm not sure how many degrees that is, but that's pretty good. Okay, so let's climb on in. Let's close the door and check if it sounds good as well here at the back. That sounds pretty good too. Of course, you got your speakers here. You got loads of legroom. This is a good, almost half a meter from my driving position. Although you got to note that I'm only 5'6", so taller adults, maybe it's a bit less, but it's still a lot compared to its competitors. Over here, not much goodies. You got 2 air vents. You got 2 USB ports, which kids would love to charge their gadgets. In the center, there's really nothing much. You just have armrests with 2 cup holders. But it's not that deep. It's only probably like 2 or 3 inches, so your big gulp cups from 7-Eleven might spill. So something to take note of. Also got ISOFIX for your child seat, all that, just the usual stuff back here. When you're in the center, that's actually quite roomy. You got a lot of foot space, so your passengers here on the left and right wouldn't really try to steal your foot space. The hump is there. However, it's not as tall, so, if my legs are like this, it's just a bit raised, but it's not quite bad. It's not as bad as, most compact sedans. And from here, you'll see that the dashboard just looks really good. It's a very modern, typical Subaru dashboard. Over at the back, the Subaru doesn't have any of those fancy things where you just wave your foot under the tailgate to open it. This one doesn't have it yet. So just a regular button over here. That's that. This one goes up by itself. And over here at the back, it's actually quite spacious. So you got this partial cover which you can just pull. That's removable as well. And then if you want to fold down the rear seats, you just pull a lever right here. It looks like a door handle. So you just pull that and that one goes down automatically. Same thing with the other side. Pull it. There you go. That is quite flat, so it's pretty practical. To close it, just press this button. And it's pretty slow, but it saves you the trouble of closing it yourself. Okay, let's check the tires. So these come in Bridgestone Duelers. They are 225 60/18, and they're about the right size for the size of this car. This is the camera that you'd see over there. So it's a small camera right there, and the other camera is right over here at the grill. The Outback has this 3.6 liter flat six engine which produces 256 horsepower. Now this engine is quite powerful, especially for Manila roads, but I'll tell you one main issue I have with this car later on related to the powertrain. It's nice and flat, so it's really low on the car. It's just the cover that looks high. So this gives you a lower center of gravity. It handles better than most of its competitors. Yeah, hood struts, by the way, hood struts. And a nice thick hood pad for sound insulation and heat insulation. So this Outback really comes with great visibility all around. So first you got this big windscreen. Over at the side you got a nice quarter panel. You'd see everything out there, even though this is a bit thick. Your windows are pretty big as well. Same thing of course at the other side. Between your B and C pillars, the windows are pretty big as well. You see a lot out of them. And between the C and the D pillars, same thing, they're pretty big. At the back, yeah, it's pretty good too. So as you can see, if you're looking through this mirror right here, you actually see a lot. So driving the 2018 Subaru Outback 3.6R. First thing, as you start driving this car, you'll notice that it doesn't feel like an SUV at all. And that's the point of this car. It's supposed to be lower than the Forester. That way you just feel like you're driving a wagon that's a bit higher. So cornering is really good. The chassis, the body roll, you barely feel it. If you want a higher car for times of mild flooding, but you don't want all that uncomfortable ride of an SUV, but you also want the practicality with the back, this car is great. Now this car, remember, this comes with a flat 6 engine. So the flat 6 engine, it's mounted a bit lower since, you know, it's flat. It's not like this. So it gives you a lower center of gravity, which translates to better handling, better cornering, and you can really feel it. The car is very agile, it's very nimble, especially for this size. Imagine a Toyota Camry. This is roughly the same size as that, but higher, right? But this handles way better. Of course, the four-wheel drive helps out a lot too, especially when it's wet. Next thing I'd like to talk about is comfort. So comfort with this car, it's pretty good. Bumps are ironed out pretty well, although some shorter bumps, you know how like usually glide over a longer speed bump, they're a bit shorter, they tend to fall, and the suspension can't seem to cope with that. That's a bit odd with this car. Aside from that, of course, you have your driving modes. You got your I mode, your intelligent mode, which is what you normally use. But despite using intelligent mode, I'm still only averaging around 5.4 kilometers per liter, which isn't that good compared to a 4-cylinder, but for a 6-cylinder, that is pretty good already. So turning this car into sport mode and sport sharp mode, as I floor it, the engine makes an okay sound. The engine is very, very powerful. 256 horsepower is just more than enough here in the Philippines, just in case you got some North American viewers. But my main issue with this car is the CVT. The CVT in this car is horrible. You just got this, usual CVT groan as you go up. It tries to emulate shifts and all that, but it just feels nowhere near of that of a conventional automatic. Imagine if this car had better tires, better sportier tires, lower profile, and this had a dual clutch gearbox. My god, this car, despite the raised ride height, this would still function well in a sportier scenario. But as it is right now, the CVT just groans. Okay, got paddle shifters, it tries to emulate gears, but no, it doesn't cut it for me. Subaru messed up with the transmission of this car. Granted, their target market probably wouldn't care about that, but for us car enthusiasts, it's no fun at all. So as mentioned earlier, this car is Eyesight. So what Eyesight is basically Subaru's adaptive cruise control and all that typical stuff. But what's different is, as mentioned earlier, is that it uses a camera-based system. For me, it's more accurate. You can even set the distance in front of you. And the good thing here in stop-and-go traffic in Manila, if the car in front of you comes to a complete stop, it actually holds the car in a complete stop as well. I've had a Volkswagen Golf once, and it has the same thing. However, when the car in front comes to a full stop, you also come to a full stop, but then it beeps at you and tells you to put your foot on the brake. If you don't, it decides, okay, this guy probably doesn't care about his life, let's go kill him. It accelerates on its own. That's stupid. But this car is just going to say, ready, hold. If you want to go follow the car again, you just press the reset up button. That's the time it only starts moving. And that's genius. That's how this is supposed to be. I don't know why the Volkswagen Group would do that, but Subaru, good job. Another thing with this car is the automatic collision warning and avoidance system. So as you're going along, someone suddenly crosses the road or a car suddenly comes to a stop. First, it's going to beep at you like loud, 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 and all the speedometers are going to turn red. But if you don't do anything, it's going to brake by itself. My only issue with that is that sometimes, you know how the driving style is here in Manila. A lot of pedestrians just, come and go, no discipline at all. And with that, for us, they're still like, few meters away, probably even 5-10 meters away, but the car starts just blaring at you like, hey, stop, stop, stop. And if you don't do anything, it just slams on the brake by itself. It gets quite annoying, so sometimes I turn it off. This car also has lane departure warning and blind spot monitoring. So for North American viewers, one thing you gotta know is that in Manila, one of your North American lanes is probably worth 2 or 3 lanes to us. So this car, probably not designed for Manila roads, tends to just keep on telling you that, hey, there's a car in your blind spot, even though with the amount of space we have here, that's not even a blind spot for us. And we prefer to drive in a tailgatey manner. So it just gets annoying, just keeps blinking at you, telling you that there's a car, there's a car, there's a car, when in fact, it's still an acceptable distance. The thing I don't like about this car's lane departure warning is that it's only a warning. In my Volkswagen Golf before, if you're about to get out of your lane, it'll actually warn you first and then steer you back into the lane. It'll try to keep you there. It won't keep you center, but it'll keep you inside the lane. But with this car, it'll just bleep at you, just like right now. You probably heard that. It just bleeps at you, beep, 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 and that's it. It's not going to help you. So if you're probably falling asleep behind the wheel, well, good luck. You're just going to hear it, but if you don't do anything, you're going to go out of your lane and crash. So it's a bad system for me.